You ever notice how the world suddenly feels African? No, seriously. Think about it for a second. The music you hear in cafes, the colors on runways, even the way global leaders talk about community and roots. It's all echoing something Africa has always known. The rhythm, the warmth, the soul, it's everywhere. For years, people said Africa had to catch up. But look around. It's the world that's catching up to Africa now. What we're seeing isn't charity or coincidence. It's correction, it's a balance. It's the universe remembering where humanity started. And standing right in the center of this awakening, a young man from Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He's more than a soldier, he's a symbol. When he speaks, you can feel generations of African pride rising in his voice. Not angry, just certain, confident, rooted. So yeah, something's changing. Quietly, beautifully. The same continent the world once pitied is now teaching it how to live again, how to lead, how to feel. And if you really want to understand how, you have to watch till the end. Let's get started. So let's start with something simple. Clothes. Because you can tell a lot about a person by what they wear. Now, for the longest time, global fashion was kind of predictable, polished, polite, and honestly, a little boring. Black suits, beige tones, minimalist chic, and then Africa walked in. Boom, color, pattern, texture, the kind of beauty that doesn't whisper, it sings. Everywhere you look now, Paris, New York, Seoul, you'll see it. Bold Ankara prints, the geometry of Kente, the elegance of Shweshwe, the hand-woven warmth of Faso Danfani. These aren't trends, they're living history. They're the language of tribes, queens, artisans, and ancestors who used thread-like sentences. A single cloth could tell who you were, where you came from, and what kind of day you were having. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré told Burkina Faso's judiciary to ditch those gloomy European robes and wear Faso Danfani, cloth made by local women, he wasn't making a fashion statement. He was making a freedom statement. You could almost hear the looms humming with pride, because that decision meant jobs for weavers, dignity for women, and respect for culture. It said, our people will no longer wear symbols of submission. And suddenly, everyone started paying attention. Fashion editors called it revolutionary. But honestly, African women have been doing this for centuries, using color as communication, using fabric as resistance. During colonial times, prints carried hidden meanings. A certain pattern said, I'm proud. Another whispered, don't underestimate me. Today, African designers are turning that same storytelling into global artistry. Loza Maleombo mixes Ivorian tradition with futuristic silhouettes. Thebe Magugu from South Africa makes suits that feel like modern armor, confidence stitched into fabric. Kenneth Ives' Nigerian hand-woven collections have European magazines tripping over themselves trying to pronounce Aso OK. And here's the twist. While Western brands talk endlessly about sustainability, Africa has always been sustainable. Recycled fabric, local dyes, slow fashion, that's just everyday logic here. You see, African fashion doesn't try to fit in. It fills in the world's missing soul. Because when you wear something made by your own people, you don't just look different, you stand differently. Your shoulders relax, your steps align with history. It's like your outfit reminds you, hey, you belong to something older than the empire. So yeah, when Africa walked in, the world stopped talking and started taking notes. Because you can borrow color, you can copy style, but you can't fake soul. And in Africa, fashion is soul, woven, worn, and lived. But remember, Africa doesn't just wear rhythm, it tells it. And no one tells stories like Africa does. Now, if fashion is Africa's heartbeat, storytelling is its soul. Because every beat carries a story. And for too long, those stories were told by the wrong people. You remember those old documentaries, right? The ones with the slow, sad piano in the background, the narrator whispering, in this poor African village. Like Africa was a tragedy instead of a continent. That era's over. The mic has changed hands. And now that Africa is telling its own story, oh man, it sounds completely different. See, Africa doesn't tell stories just to entertain. It tells them to preserve. Every folktale, proverb, and song is a vessel. It's history disguised as art. It's wisdom wearing rhythm. When grandmothers tell stories under mango trees, They're not just passing time, they're passing time through generations. And now, that same spirit has gone global. Look at Nollywood, the second biggest film industry on earth. You think those filmmakers are just chasing fame? Number. They're building a mirror big enough for Africa to finally see itself clearly. You watch a Nigerian movie and you see something raw. Laughter, corruption, faith, family, chaos, magic, all in one. It's messy, it's alive, it's real. That's Africa. Then there's Kenya's Wanori Kahiu making films that feel like Afrofuturism meets folklore. Or Senegal's Mati Diop turning African ghosts into global cinema. Even Netflix, once a Western playground, is now full of African stories that don't ask for pity. They demand presence. But storytelling isn't just in movies. It's in everything. Music videos, podcasts, TikToks, speeches. African youth are remixing folklore into memes and turning oral traditions into viral threads. You'll see a tweet that starts with, "In my village, my grandma said," and ends with a lesson sharper than any TED Talk. And that's where someone like Captain Ibrahim Traoré fits in perfectly. The man doesn't talk like a politician. He talks like a griot, the old storytellers who kept kingdoms alive through memory. His words don't sound rehearsed. They sound remembered. When he talks about Sankara, it's not nostalgia, it's continuation. It's like he's saying, that story isn't over, we're just turning the page. That's why his speeches go viral. They don't feel like politics, they feel like truth-telling. The kind that hits you in the chest and makes you whisper, yeah, that's us. And you know what's interesting? The world loves it. Global media, once obsessed with painting Africa as chaos, is now quoting African writers, analyzing African philosophy, praising African storytelling. Because the truth is, people are tired of sterile stories. Africa gives them something else: warmth, contradiction, color, humanity. But storytelling isn't just about art. It's about the values behind the words, the principles that guide how we see ourselves, each other, and the world. And those values, they might just be Africa's greatest gift to humanity. Let's take a breath for a second. Because after all those stories, you start to notice something, right? There's a pattern, a heartbeat, a moral thread that runs through everything Africa creates, builds, or sings about. That thread is valuable. You see, Africa never needed philosophers in marble halls to teach ethics. It lived them. They were in the way people greeted each other, the way food was shared, and the way the land was respected. Morality wasn't written in books. It was woven into life. And at the center of all that, one word, Ubuntu. It means, I am because we are. Simple words, world-changing meaning. Ubuntu says your joy means nothing if your neighbor is suffering. It says your success isn't real if others are left behind. In a world obsessed with me, Africa has always been quietly whispering we. And now, that whisper is becoming a roar. Look around. The West is tired, lonely, anxious, disconnected. Technology connects everything but people. Families are breaking apart, communities feel colder, and friendships are transactional. And in the middle of that chaos, Africa walks in like, we've known the cure all along. Because Ubuntu isn't just kindness, it's structure, it's governance, it's economics, it's how villages survive droughts, how cities stay alive through hardship, how leaders earn trust. When someone in Africa says, we're together in this, they mean it. And that's what leaders like Captain Ibrahim Traoré understand better than anyone. When he cut the salaries of government officials, people thought it was symbolic. It wasn't. It was cultural. It was Ubuntu in uniform. He wasn't just saving money, he was saving meaning. He was saying, if my people are struggling, I have no right to be comfortable. That's not a populist gesture. That's leadership born from ancient logic. In traditional African governance, a chief ate last. A king's wealth was measured by the well-being of his people. That's why when Traoré speaks about dignity, it hits differently. Because it's not politics, it's heritage speaking through him. And here's what's fascinating. The world is listening. Slowly, carefully. Western universities are teaching Ubuntu as a model for leadership and ethics. The United Nations references it in peace-building frameworks. Tech companies study it to design ethical AI. Can you imagine? Silicon Valley, the capital of isolation, learning humanity from African philosophy. There's something poetic about that. But Ubuntu isn't the only jewel. Africa's respect for nature, for ancestors, for community consensus. These are moral technologies far older and wiser than anything coded into modern systems. In African spirituality, nature isn't property, it's a partnership. Time isn't something to control, it's something to honor. And that's why, even in this modern world, Africa feels timeless. Because its values were built to last. They don't depend on trends, politics, or profits. They depend on people. When you look closely, you realize Africa's biggest export isn't gold or oil, it's wisdom. Wisdom about how to live, how to lead, and how to love without losing yourself. And that wisdom isn't locked away in temples or textbooks. It's in the farmers who share harvests, the women who run cooperatives, the youth who code apps that solve human problems, not just technical ones. The world calls it innovation. Africa calls it life. But the story doesn't end here, because those same values, that ancient sense of togetherness, are now driving the most surprising revolution of all, a digital one. Let's pause for a second to say, big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. Now this is where things get really exciting, because the world still thinks Africa is catching up. But oh, they have no idea what's coming. Africa isn't catching up. Africa is building something entirely new, and it's doing it with the youngest population on Earth, an army of dreamers, creators, and innovators who were born with Wi-Fi in one hand and ancestral pride in the other. Let's put it in perspective. The average age in Africa? Around 19. The average age in Europe? Over 40. That means Africa's future isn't approaching, it's already awake. And this generation isn't waiting for anyone's permission. They're coding in garages, running startups in cafes, learning AI from YouTube tutorials, and doing it all with a sense of purpose the world can feel. But here's what makes Africa's digital revolution different. It has a soul. Western innovation often starts with profit. African innovation starts with people. It's not, how can we make billions? It's, how can we make life easier for everyone? Take Kenya's M-Pesa, mobile money, before Apple Pay even existed. A fintech revolution born out of necessity, not luxury. Or Rwanda's drones delivering blood to remote hospitals. That's not sci-fi, that's compassion with wings. In Nigeria, young developers built e-learning platforms to teach coding in rural areas. In Ghana, solar engineers are powering entire villages using recycled panels. It's what we like to call Ubuntu technology. Tools designed not just to connect but to care. And it's catching the world's attention. Google set up its first AI lab in Ghana. Microsoft opened a development center in Nairobi. Even Elon Musk's Starlink sees Africa as the ultimate test. Not because it's easy, but because if something works here, it can work anywhere. And then there's the cultural side of digital Africa. Oh, that's a revolution all on its own. African humor is running the internet. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, the creativity is unreal. 1 second, it's a Nigerian comedian turning power cuts into comedy gold. The next, it's a South African DJ mixing beats that make the world dance. And that's where it gets really poetic. Because when Captain Ibrahim Traoré's face floods timelines, it's not propaganda, it's pride. That image of him in his uniform, that calm but fearless stare, it's become digital armor for millions of young Africans who see themselves in him. He's not just a president, he's a symbol. A reminder that African leadership can look like us, speak like us, and dream like us. See, what the world doesn't get is that Africa's digital rise isn't about gadgets. It's about identity. It's about using technology to protect who we are, not erase it. While others are building robots that think like humans, Africa is raising humans who think like communities. That's the real innovation. And the best part? It's all homegrown. No one's coming to save Africa. Africa's saving itself. One app, one hashtag, one brave idea at a time. This is the new rhythm of the continent. Code and compassion, electricity and empathy, ancient wisdom uploaded into the cloud, and guess what? The world's watching, again, because they can feel it, the same way they felt it in the music, the fashion, the storytelling, the feeling that Africa isn't following trends, it's setting them. And now, with technology as its instrument, Africa's not just changing its own future, it's quietly rewriting the world. Because when innovation has heart, when code carries culture, that's not just progress. That's Africa leading the 21st century with something no machine can replicate: soul. Now let's talk about leadership, because honestly, this is where Africa surprises people the most. The world still measures leadership in titles, suits, and speeches. Africa measures it in service. Here, a real leader isn't the one standing above the people. He's the one standing with them. And if you've been paying attention, you can feel this quiet shift happening all across the continent. A new kind of leadership, born not from imported systems, but from African culture itself. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Look at Captain Ibrahim Traoré. The man doesn't just hold power, he carries it differently. He doesn't perform for cameras, he speaks like a guardian. There's this calm in his voice, this old soul authority that makes you think of village elders sitting under a baobab tree, guiding with wisdom, not ego. When he says, "We will no longer live on our knees," it's not bravado, it's memory. It's Africa remembering what dignity sounds like. And you see that same energy spreading. Ghana's Nana Akufo-Addo telling his people, "We must think beyond aid." Tanzania's Samia Suluhu bringing grace and logic to governance. Rwanda's Paul Kagame proving that discipline and progress can coexist. None of them are copying the West. They're leading in a language the West never learned, the language of belonging. Because African leadership, at its core, isn't about control. It's about care. It's not, "I rule, therefore I am." It's, "I serve, therefore we rise." That's why traditional African councils worked. Every voice mattered, even the smallest one. Consensus wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It took longer, sure, but it lasted longer too. When Traoré reduced ministerial salaries, people outside Africa called it a political stunt. But Africans understood immediately that that's humility in action. That's Ubuntu in power. He didn't cut costs, he cut distance, the distance between ruler and ruled. He said, "We are in this together," and meant it. And that's why his leadership feels like something bigger than politics. It feels cultural, almost spiritual. It's leadership that remembers its ancestors and answers to its children at the same time. The West looks at Africa and still wonders, why are these leaders so young, so bold, so unafraid? Because they grew up seeing what didn't work. They saw borrowed democracies collapse, and they said, "Let's rebuild in our own image." And that's exactly what's happening. Across the Sahel, across the South, even in the diaspora, Africans are realizing leadership doesn't have to look Western to be legitimate. It can wear traditional clothes, speak local languages, and listen before it commands. This is culture turning into confidence. And confidence, once awakened, is unstoppable. So when the world calls this new African populism, it's missing the point. It's not rebellion, it's restoration. Africa isn't fighting to imitate anyone. It's fighting to remember itself. And that remembrance, that rediscovery of cultural power, is reshaping everything. Politics, trade, diplomacy, even the global balance of influence. Because when a continent starts leading from its soul instead of its scars, you don't just see change, you feel it. So, what comes next? Because after everything we've seen, the colors, the rhythm, the pride, the power, you can feel it, right? Africa isn't done. It's just catching its breath before the next verse. See, people keep calling this a renaissance. But no, it's not a comeback. You can't come back to a stage you never left. This is a continuation. The same drumbeat, just a new generation playing it louder. And this new Africa? Oh, it's bold. It's young. It's connected in ways our grandparents could only dream of. The Wi-Fi signal might be patchy sometimes, sure, but the spirit, flawless. In Accra, A 23-year-old artist is turning Adinkra symbols into NFTs that sell worldwide. In Nairobi, a group of teenage girls is teaching robotics using scrap metal. In Johannesburg, DJs remix traditional chants into futuristic anthems that sound like the past meeting the future halfway. In Lagos, a poet uses TikTok to turn African proverbs into bite-sized wisdom for millions. This generation is rewriting what it means to be modern, and spoiler alert, it doesn't look Western anymore. It looks African. And what's beautiful is how they blend everything: ancient roots, digital tools, spiritual calm, and social fire. They don't see tradition and technology as opposites. They see them as teammates. Their logic is simple. If our ancestors could build pyramids without Google, imagine what we can do with it. Even the African diaspora is coming home, in heart, in culture, in spirit. You've got African Americans reconnecting with Yoruba spirituality, Brazilians tracing ancestry to Benin, Caribbean artists weaving African languages into their lyrics. They're not just searching for roots, they're watering them. And it's not just people of African descent either. Around the world, more and more people are drawn to Africa's way of living: slower, warmer, realer. Europeans are learning Swahili. Asians are studying African architecture for climate solutions. Americans are discovering Ubuntu as a cure for loneliness. It's not charity, it's curiosity. Humanity is remembering its first language: connection. Africa is showing that you don't have to erase your past to claim your future. You can carry both heritage in one hand, innovation in the other. That balance, that harmony, is the continent's secret. While others compete for dominance, Africa cooperates for endurance. While others chase profit, Africa creates meaning. And maybe that's the lesson. The 21st century doesn't belong to those who shout the loudest. It belongs to those who listen the deepest. And Africa, through its art, music, tech, and spirit, is teaching the world to listen again. So, what comes next? Simple. Africa keeps building, the world keeps watching, and somewhere between a drum beat in Dakar and a startup in Kigali, the future quietly takes its shape, African shaped. Because this isn't the rise of a continent, it's the return of balance. Do you think the world is ready to learn from Africa, or is it still too proud to listen? Let us know in the comments section what part of African culture you see quietly shaping your everyday life without even realizing it. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.